Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is November the 18th, 2019, the 20th of Cheshvan, 5780. Hope you're doing well in your part of the world. It's a beautiful day here in Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish people. Thanks so much for joining us. We are going to discuss so much in the news. So much has happened, especially down south, since we spoke last Monday. 400 rockets, and we'll get to that after the break. But first, we are going to go to the phone right now to talk to Oren Hason. He is the CEO of the Lone Soldier Center in memory of Michael Levin. And of course, so many Chayalim, so many IDF soldiers we have to thank for their service and everything they did down in the southern part of the country and all over the country over the past week. And many of those who are serving in this country are lone soldiers who have come over perhaps not going to college and not being at fraternity parties, instead defending Israel's borders each and every day. And to them, we say thank you so much. Oren Hason, welcome to Israel Uncensored here on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for those who have not heard about the center, the Lone Soldier Center in memory of Michael Levin, if you can, just give us a little background of what exactly the center is, what its goals are, what its mission is.
So the center was founded in 2009 with the main goal of former lone soldiers coming in and helping out the next generation of lone soldiers. Our goal is to help out lone soldiers before, during, and after their army service so that they could settle into Israel without necessarily hopping on a plane and going back home because they couldn't find any connections to their parents over here in Israel to find a job, or even during their service when they come home from base and they have nobody to talk to. They have us. We have a clubhouse in Jerusalem. We have one in Tel Aviv. We have one that we just set up in Beersheba, and it's basically in order to create community for these soldiers to have a base to call home.
So for people out there who may not be aware, we're talking about kids from, and I started to describe it before, kids from America and other parts of the world who don't necessarily have to serve in the IDF, but choose to do so. And when they get here, they're not just volunteers. They are actually full-time soldiers, many of them in combat units, defending the borders of the state of Israel. Is that correct?
Correct. We also have another department that deals with Israeli-born lone soldiers, which is a whole new story in itself. It's basically kids that were brought up here in Israel, and they come from families that have broken homes or orphans. And again, they're dealing with a similar issue where they don't have a direct connection to their parents over here in Israel. But essentially, we're here for both. We're here for those coming from abroad, coming from France or Italy or America or pretty much anywhere. And those from here, the local kids that grew up in Israel, and we actually found a pretty good meld where the Israeli-born lone soldiers are kind of teaching the American or the French Hebrew. The foreign soldiers are coming in, and they're basically they're teaching these kids about all their traditions. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice dynamic.
And the center in memory of Michael Levin, we could probably do a whole show. No doubt, we could do a whole show just on the legacy of Michael Levin. But if you can, maybe just briefly introduce the name Michael Levin to our audience, for those perhaps who have not heard about this particular soldier who the center is named after.
So Michael Levin was born in 1984. He's about my age. After high school, he decided to come to Israel, and he fell in love with everything there is to fall in love with over here, and decided to join Tzanchanim. He was in the 890 Battalion. And
paratroopers, correct?
Paratroopers, correct. The IDF gives soldiers off every single year for about 30 days to be able to go visit their family, the lone soldiers specifically. So he happened to be in America visiting his family in Pennsylvania while the Second Lebanon War broke out. And his unit went up to Lebanon, and he decided to do exactly what he was trained for. And he went over to the airport and flew out to Ben Gurion and got together with his unit and pretty much was in Lebanon. He did exactly what he was trained to do and exactly what his heart needed to do to defend Israel. And unfortunately, he passed. He was murdered by a Hezbollah terrorist. And about 24 hours after he got into Lebanon, he was back in Israel, and his parents already flew over. And pretty much after his death and after his funeral, a bunch of his friends got together and said, you know what, let's do something in his memory. Let's set up a center for Mikey, and let's find a way to help all those that are current lone soldiers through the issues and through the problems that we had. So that's his legacy. We could thank him for having pretty much everything that we as lone soldiers back then didn't have.
Yeah, he's truly a hero for those who don't know, and you should, I believe there's a book out, isn't there, about his life?
There's a book, there's a movie. The movie's called The Hero in Heaven. There's 2 versions of it. They're both on YouTube. But yeah, I recommend that if anybody doesn't know or anybody knows a little bit about Mikey, to watch them. Truly inspiring what he did.
That's absolutely correct, no doubt about it. And I know that the Lone Soldier Center, in addition to the daily activities and all the program you have special activities throughout the year, including Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. And I understand that a week from this Thursday on Thanksgiving, for many of those lone soldiers who may be missing out on their traditional Thanksgivings, those from America who are here in Israel and still want to celebrate, you guys are putting together a huge party on the 28th, Thursday the 28th of this month in Jerusalem, in order for those soldiers to be able to get together with other soldiers and celebrate Thanksgiving. If you can't talk about that upcoming event, and let people know how they can register, sign up, if they're listening, if they're a lone soldier here in Israel and they want to come to the party.
For sure. So basically, twice a year we have pretty large events. One of them is Yom Ha'atzmaut, like you said. Last year we had 2 events. We had one in Jerusalem and one in Tel Aviv. And each event had roughly between 800 to 1,000 current, former lone soldiers there. And Thanksgiving also. Last year we did it in Tel Aviv. We had about 800 lone soldiers there. And this year we're moving it over to Jerusalem. We're going to be doing it at Tachana Rishona. To anybody that wants to get a little bit more info about it, they could go to our website at lonesoldiercenter.com. Or to our Facebook page. Both of them have invites. They have links that people can click on either to get involved and donate, or to register and actually be part of the meal. This year we actually have a special guest. We have the United States Marines serving in the embassy coming down to have the meal with the soldiers, which is it's amazing to be able to connect the Marines from the U.S. and the IDF soldiers to come together on an event like this. It's really something beautiful. And yeah, the event's on the 28th. It starts at 7 p.m. It's going to be at Tachana Rishona over here in Jerusalem at the first station. And I look forward to seeing everybody come.
And you're talking about turkey, the works, pumpkin pie, the whole deal?
We're talking about the works, turkey and stuffing and all of it. We even got desserts. We have a bunch of local restaurants from here in Jerusalem that got involved, some good street food, and the food is going to be up at that level that you just can't miss it.
If I come, can we get some football on the big screens? Can we do something like that?
For sure. So we have an NFL Game Pass, and over the past
awesome
massive screen, we've been watching it, and yeah.
So again, give the website one more time for Chayalim, for soldiers who want to attend this big Thanksgiving party with 1,000 of their closest friends.
Sounds great. So it's lonesoldiercenter.com, and over there you have all the info, how to donate or how to register to come and be a guest, and it's all there for them.
So check out they're doing holy work, folks. The Lone Soldier Center in memory of Michael Levin. The CEO is Oren Hason. He joins us here from Jerusalem. I appreciate your time and hope to be there on the 28th. Hope to come check it out. And thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Josh.
We're going to take a short break and come back with all the news, especially everything that happened this week down in southern Israel. My name is Josh Hasten. This is Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com. On Facebook, it's Joshua Hasten or Josh Hasten Israel Advocacy and Journalism. On Twitter at Josh Hasten, and now on Instagram as well. Short break for station identification. We'll come right back with much more, everything happening here in the world of news from Israel. Thanks so much.
The world, says Albert Einstein, is a dangerous place to live. Not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. And I say that one thing you can always do is tell the tale. So I'm Rav Mike Foyer, and this is The Jewish Story.
Join Rav Mike Foyer for the best Jewish history podcast, The Jewish Story, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.
And we are back. Josh Hasten here. Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is Monday, the 18th of November, 2019, the 20th of Cheshvan, 5780. And we're going to get to the news now. Of course, what a week it's been with terrorists from Gaza the PIJ, so-called Palestinian Islamic Jihad, firing over 400 rockets at the Jewish state over a period of 48 hours. Israel then reaching a so-called ceasefire with that terror group. And even though they reached a ceasefire, which is nonsense to begin with, all throughout the day, I believe it was on, was it Wednesday or Thursday, the terrorists kept firing rockets. And then on Friday night, Hamas, which basically stayed out of this round, one of many rounds, they decided that they're going to get involved with firing rockets on Shabbat towards Beersheba. As a result, Israel struck Hamas targets, reported by the Jerusalem Post in Gaza. After 2 rockets were launched towards Beersheba early Saturday morning, IDF believes Hamas was responsible. The rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome. So I guess Hamas, they're getting in on the action just a little bit, following their I would say their rivals, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza. Thank God no one was killed on the Israeli side in all of the rocket attacks. I mean, it's nothing short of a miracle, 400 plus rockets. Nobody was killed, but another round, another instance of the children, especially of Israel's southwestern communities, suffering. It's been now 18 years. We've had 3 wars and multiple operations against the Hamas and other terror groups down there in Gaza. It's good that Israel took out a top leader there in the PIJ. That's certainly positive. A little less evil in the world, along with 20 plus other terrorists. But it's not over. It's just a matter of days, weeks, or months before we have another round down there in Gaza. And while Hamas and Islamic Jihad, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, may not get along on all of the issues, it seems that they are working to defuse tensions, reported by the Jerusalem Post, and strengthen their ties. According to Khaled Abu Tuame, Hamas and PIJ officials said over the weekend, relations between the two groups will remain strong despite differences over last week's round of fighting with Israel. So one thing that they can agree on, even though they may have issues with each other, with the issues in regard to Israel in terms of wanting to destroy the Jewish state, with that they certainly can agree on. And they just have to find a way to work together with a more of a friendly environment. That's basically what they're saying. My problem with the whole thing is that both terror groups are still standing, Hamas and PIJ, and the fact that literally after this so-called ceasefire, which was a joke to begin with, went into effect, Israel then once again lined up the trucks and started bringing in goods to Gaza, which we know are just used by Hamas and other terror groups to continue down their path of rocket firing and building of the terror tunnels. So why we supply Gaza with anything, I just don't get it, when we're just enabling them to turn around and to attack us. At the same time, TOI reports that the parents of IDF soldier Hadar Golden, who was killed during a ceasefire, if I'm not mistaken, during Operation Protective Edge, they are very upset that this ceasefire did not include the returning of the body of their son and another IDF soldier who was killed in 2014. We're talking about Sergeant Oren Shaul. The bodies of these 2 soldiers remained in the hands of Hamas, so they were extremely upset that in any ceasefire, it did not include returning their son, in addition to Shaul, and 2 Israelis who are believed to be alive in Gaza. Simcha and Leah Golden, Hadar Golden, may rest in peace, his parents, said, quote, "Here, after 5 years and 4 months in which nothing has really been done, we expect to hear from Netanyahu when he will return the soldiers and civilians who are in the hands of Hamas." So they're justifiably upset about that. That was reported by Times of Israel later on late in the afternoon on yesterday, and today's paper in the Jerusalem Post on Monday, there's an article in which Prime Minister Netanyahu promises not to transfer to Gaza the bodies of terrorists held by Israel until Hamas releases the remains of Hadar Golden and Oren Shaul, who were killed in 2014. The families of the soldiers actually met with Netanyahu in his office yesterday and discussed the issue the matter with him. Netanyahu also promised the families that no formal ceasefire would be made with respect to Gaza that did not include the return of Golden and Shaul. So, I mean, I don't know. I still don't understand what a ceasefire means. They continue to fire rockets. I'm sure they'll go back to these incendiary kites. I'm sure the protests on the border are actually violent terror riots. That's what they actually are. Will continue. And what does that mean? A long-term ceasefire with a terror organization that doesn't have the word ceasefire in their or peace in their vocabulary. So we'll see what that means. But certainly, the bodies of these two soldiers should be brought back home. There's certainly no doubt about that. And as the rockets were falling here in Israel, the European Union used their time in order to decide to basically assist in the BDS movement's desire to boycott products from Israel. I'm referring to an EU High Court ruling this past week, which stated that products from Judea and Samaria, Jewish products, not Arab products, not products in any other conflict involving land in the world, and not that I think this is a conflict involving land. We can get into that at a different time, but I'm talking about here specifically products produced in Judea and Samaria. The Europeans have decided that they will label them. Not only can Israel not put made in Israel on the products exported to Europe, but we have to write made in a settlement, according to this court ruling. Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein sent a letter to his European Union counterpart to protest against the EU top court's decision mandating labeling Israeli goods produced over the 1967 lines. And again, I wrote about this extensively in an article this past week on JNS News. Go to jns.org. And you can find the article there detailing how this all started with the Europeans years ago deciding that they would not allow Israel to put made in Israel. And now they're specifically saying that each member state has the obligation that products which are originated in Judea and Samaria, produced there, must have the word made in an Israeli settlement or an Israeli colony. And forget about, again, any territorial disputes around the world. They're not looking to label any other products. They're looking to label Jewish-only products. An Arab who produces a product in Judea and Samaria down the road from a Jew, he can write on his product made in Palestine, which is a fictionary place which has never existed. Yet a Jew has to write, as of now, if this is upheld, made in a settlement or a colony. So that's the way things stand with the European Union. The same day, we cannot make this up, the same day that rockets are being fired, they're using their time to label, once again, to label Jewish products as they did 70 years ago. Speaking about those who have no moral compass, the United Nations, the UN voted on Friday to extend UNRWA's mandate until 2023, approving the resolution 170-2. Guess who the two countries are who voted against extending UNRWA's mandate? Israel and the United States. Of course, UNRWA, an organization which seeks to perpetuate the conflict between Israel and her neighbors, leaving the Arabs who fled here in 1948 to Jordan and to Syria and Lebanon, leaving them in squalor, trying to convince them that they should return to Israel, essentially take over the Jewish state, destroy the Jewish state. And this is a UN organization who is purposely leaving them in squalor, encouraging them to hate Israel. That's really UNRWA's true mandate. And of course, the PA officials praised the vote as a huge achievement. And again, the results 170-2. You know what? It doesn't matter. You might say, "Oh, that's a majority, a crazy majority, 170-2." But you know what? Even if you're in the extreme minority, if your moral compass is pointed in the right direction, that's really what we need to look at here. The only two countries who are on the same page and understand that UNRWA is just seeking to perpetuate things, U.S. and Israel. And regardless of what the mob mentality against the Jewish state might be, at least we got those. At least we got those two votes. One of them being our vote. At the same time, the Jerusalem Post reports that the UN, in addition, get this, gave its preliminary approval to a resolution that referred to the Temple Mount by its Muslim name only, Haram al-Sharif. That's what the UN. That's how the UN refers to our holiest site. They call it by its Muslim name. The resolution did reaffirm the special significance of the holy sites and importance of the city of Jerusalem to Jews, Muslims, and Christians, yet they would not refer to the Temple Mount in any way, shape, or form as the Temple Mount. They call it by its Muslim name only. And, what's new under the sun there with the UN trying to wipe out Jewish history right here in front of our eyes. So I don't know if this is just some type of binding resolution or what the purpose is in this resolution. But nevertheless, an attempt by the UN, again, just because they're the majority and those who voted, the country's 154-8, including all 28 European Union members trying to wipe out Jewish history on the Temple Mount. Just because the majority does something does not mean that they are morally correct in their actions. That's certainly the case here. One unnamed Finnish representative, according to the J Post, spoke at this UN committee, and disagreed with attempts by Arab states to solely reference the Temple Mount by its Muslim name. So you do have some out there with their moral compass pointed in the right direction, coming out against this language which does not reference the Temple Mount as a Jewish holy site. Back to turning our attention down to the south, in this week's rocket bombardment against Israel carried out by terrorists in Gaza. Hamas leader, by the way, Hamas, as I said before, Hamas, more or less was not involved in this last round. Nevertheless, Hamas leader, according to Arutz Sheva, Sinwar, threatened to crush Tel Aviv. He gets points for sitting out, right? Yet he says right here he's going to crush Tel Aviv, promising to blow up IDF tanks. And he also told how Hamas uses irrigation pipes left in Gaza after the 2005, it says here, disengagement, I call it the expulsion, in order to manufacture rockets. They're using the pipes from under the ground, the irrigation pipes, from those beautiful communities in Gush Katif, and they're building rockets using those pipes. The head of Hamas, who's threatening Israel, and who has been made mainstream, and he gets all these points because they didn't fire. Well, they fired on Beersheba, but that was during the ceasefire. It doesn't really count. It doesn't really matter. The rockets were intercepted. Hamas are now the good guys somehow. And here they're admitting they want a prize for this, right? They want a prize for staying out of the last round. Here they're admitting they're using the pipes from Gush Katif to build rockets. Anybody who thinks that, still to this day, thinks or rationalizes that it was a good move for Israel to leave, to destroy all those beautiful communities and to pull out of Gaza, I just don't understand how anyone at this point can believe that was still the right move. Just tragic and just horrible. Literally using what we used in order to irrigate and to grow and to produce and to do wonderful things here in this land, using those pipes in order to fire rockets. Here's a guy who I admire extremely, Fox News reporter who was in Gaza during this last round, Trey Yingst, reporting from Gaza, setting the record straight. There was a building struck, I think it was a UN building, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, Palestinian Independent Commission for Human Rights, a so-called human rights building, whatever that means in Gaza, was struck by a rocket, and Amnesty International went crazy blaming Israel for targeting a human rights building. And here you have this Fox News correspondent, Trey Yingst, who was right there at the time, who said Israel did not strike this building. A rocket misfired from Gaza. I was across the street when it happened, he reported. I want to thank him publicly for his honesty, for truthful journalism. And I don't think Amnesty, they tweeted this out, that Israel targeted a human rights facility. I don't think they apologized or retracted their tweet. But I don't expect that much out of Amnesty International, which is not a true human rights organization. They are an Israel bashing Israel. There's all this evidence showing, by the way, all these reports showing how that they hold Israel to a different standard. This is an anti-Semitic organization, Amnesty International. They are not for human rights at all. At least not human rights for Jews, and at least not human rights for Jews living here in Israel. A little bit of sports news here as we almost have to wrap up the show. Palestinian Media Watch is calling on FIFA, that is the International Federation of Football or Soccer, if you will, calling on them to punish the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian Football Association, PFA as they're called, for refusing to let Arab players compete against Israelis. I'm talking about Arabs who live under the PA. Iran, by the way, refused, as it's pointed out here in the PMW report, Iran refused to let its judo athletes compete against an Israeli athlete. The International Judo Federation suspended Iran for all competitions. Yet, FIFA has yet to punish Arabs living under the PA or the PA itself for not allowing their residents to compete, to be on the field with Israelis. If they have a match, let's say, scheduled against Israel in some competition, they will forfeit the match. And PMW is calling them out on this. And, of course, Jibril Rajoub, the terrorist in the suit, who was the president of what's called the Palestinian Football Association, head of the PLO Supreme Council for Youth Sport, he has prohibited participation in any sporting event with Israel. Rajoub, of course, also using sport to support and glorify terrorism, incite hatred and violence, and promote racism. This according to Palestinian Media Watch. But not really surprised there, because, again, as I said, Jibril Rajoub, go read the book Catch the Jew, Tuvia Tenenbaum, who exposes Jibril Rajoub for being a terrorist in a suit. Yet somehow the international community, and somehow Israel actually, ignores the fact officially that he is a terrorist in a suit. Two positive sports stories to conclude today's show. Number one, Lionel Messi and his Argentinian teammates arrived in Israel Sunday ahead of a match against Uruguay. I believe that is this evening here in Israel. This is 18 months after Argentina canceled the match. Supposed to play a friendly against the Jewish state. They gave in to BDS last time, not this time. According to I-24, a live webcast showed the team, the Argentinians, disembarking from their flight at Ben Gurion Airport and getting on their bus, getting ready for their friendly against Uruguay. Yes, the match, in fact, will be this evening. Messi against his Barcelona striker partner, Luis Suarez. Uruguay arrived in Israel on Saturday. So this is a BDS fail, as people were putting BDS anti-Israel haters were putting pressure on them to cancel their match and not show up here in Israel. Arguably the best soccer or football player, if you will, in the world is now in the Jewish state. So you can take that BDS, and I could continue with that, but this is a PG show. I continue my thoughts on that. Just one other amazing sports story here. Israel's national anthem was played in an Abu Dhabi arena on Saturday after 17-year-old Alon Lviv, I think is his name. Leviev, took gold. 17-year-old Alon Leviev took gold in the junior category at the World Jiu-Jitsu Championship. The latest instance of a sea change here reported by TOI in the Gulf Emirates, where Israeli symbols were banned just a few years ago. Leviev competed in the 55 kilogram and under weight category, beating an athlete from Abu Dhabi, overcoming competitors from Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, is that how you pronounce it? And following the medal distribution, the tournament presenter announced in English, "Congratulations, and now for the national anthem of Israel," after which the Hatikva melody began playing. I don't think this was the first time. I think there was a judo competition where they played Hatikva in Abu Dhabi. But again, hearing Hatikva there in a Gulf Emirate country is pretty unbelievable. Who would have thought it was possible? But yet it did in fact take place. The UAE reversing its policy of banning athletes from the Jewish state from using their symbols. I remember they used to, instead of when an Israeli won, they would put up like the flag of the competition or the logo of the competition and not the Israeli flag, and they would not play Hatikva. But now playing Hatikva, so congratulations to the 17-year-old. Israel does amazing, by the way, in judo and all these martial arts competitions. We're tough Jews, man. I mean, the world tries to mess with us, but at the end of the day, we are tough Jews here living in the land of Israel. So God bless these athletes. God bless, of course, the IDF and the border police and the security agencies and everyone else protecting the Jewish state. I say it now, especially after the tumultuous week we had just last week with all the rockets being fired and all the amazing work that our troops did to keep us safe, whether those manning the Iron Dome or on the front lines or preventing infiltrations, and everyone else involved in keeping the Jews safe here in the land of Israel and all over the world. And that's going to do it for today, for Monday, the 18th of November, 2019, the 20th of Cheshvan, 5780. Shout out to Benjamin Bresky, engineer extraordinaire, for all the work he does. Tabitha Epstein for getting these shows up on our website and everything else she does. Get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com. On Facebook, it's Joshua Hasten or Josh Hasten, Israel Advocacy and Journalism. On Twitter, at Josh Hasten, and now on Instagram as well. Most importantly, between now and when we speak again, please God, next Monday, here on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Everyone out there in the wonderful world of ours, be safe. Shalom, shalom, from another beautiful day here in the Jewish state of Israel. Shalom.